Excuse me, NBA officials. Hi, Matt George here, host of the Locked On Kings podcast. Quick question for you. It seems to me like, despite the Sacramento Kings being one of the best teams in the Western Conference, back up to the number 2 seed, by the way, after tonight's win, and them being one of the best teams on the road in the entire NBA, it seems to me like late game foul calls, bogus foul calls, continue to go against the Sacramento Kings. Now, is this because Mike Brown called you out multiple times, and rightfully so, after your mistakes at the beginning of the season? Or maybe it's the NBA's last 2-minute report pointing out your ineptitude and the amount of times that you've gotten calls wrong against the Kings so far this year. Not that that means anything to us because it doesn't change anything. It just points out your mistakes. Or maybe it's because despite your mistakes, Darren Fox doesn't give a damn and he's going to keep hitting game winners like he did in Chicago tonight. And then another follow-up question. Do you think that you can stop this tear that the Sacramento Kings are on? I don't know if anybody can. This season is getting magical at this point. Another game winner for Darren Fox. 20 road wins on the season for the Sacramento Kings. They're guaranteed at worst to go 500 on the season. And you're listening to the Locked On Kings podcast.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. Time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all regular season and soon to be all playoffs long. Today presented by Ultimate GM. If you ever dreamed of becoming an NBA GM and managing your own basketball franchise, this game is definitely for you. To download the game, visit ultimatebasketballgm.com or look it up on the app stores. Our listeners get 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code Locked On, all caps, in the game. Give it a try and show me when your team wins the championship. Maybe like the Sacramento Kings are going to do this year. Hi, I'm Matt George, host of the Locked On Kings podcast. I'm a sports reporter and producer for ABC 10 News. I'm here in a empty ABC 10 studios right now, and thank goodness for that, because not only did that intro take me like 45 takes to get right, and it was probably out of focus the entire time anyway, but whatever. I had fun doing it. Also, I probably scared the hell out of half of the newsroom when I screamed at the top of my lungs for 2 reasons. One, I screamed at the foul against DeMar DeRozan, the 4-point play, not being a foul, which it shouldn't have been, and we'll get to that. And then I screamed for Darren Fox hitting the game winner that I think everybody and their mother knew was going in as soon as Darren Fox put it up. He cannot be denied. The Sacramento Kings cannot be denied. They beat the Chicago Bulls 117-114 to start this road trip. Darren Fox doesn't give a damn about late game whistles, clearly. And, you know, I've talked a lot about the Kings handling their business, right? And they're 9-2 now since the All-Star break. They're in control of their destiny, and they have taken full control of their destiny. They refuse to lose games. They always respond, or seem to always respond, after losses. This Kings team is in control. They're taking control, and they're not giving it up to anybody, and that includes the officials. Darren Fox wasn't worried about the foul call. Darren Fox wasn't worried about the prospect of overtime. All Darren Fox saw was tie game, ball in my hands, 8 seconds remaining, and he pulled up and hit that three like it was light work. Darren, I mean, people are talking about all NBA status. I've shared with you, I don't know if he's going to be good enough statistically compared to other. I mean, typically that is such an individual heavy award that they'll give it to someone that puts up crazy numbers more than just playing for a winning team and leading a winning team. Although, of course, I've seen so many great arguments for Darren Fox being an all-NBA player. I certainly believe he deserves a look at that, and certainly so does Domantas Sabonis, who had another triple-double tonight. We will get to that too. But Darren Fox, whether it's, I mean, the Jerry West Clutch Player of the Year award, I mean, it's already in his trophy case at home at this point. I mean, the Kings or rather the NBA is just engraving it and shining it up and holding it for Darren. He is so damn clutch. He continues to just shine in these moments, step up when the lights are brightest and all the pressure is on his shoulders. And after he hit that shot, the camera caught him turning around and just saying, "I'm too nice." He knows it. His confidence is through the absolute roof. There is nothing anybody that can do to diminish De'Aaron Fox's confidence at that point. And when someone is that confident, when someone is as fearless as De'Aaron Fox is, that makes them beyond dangerous. And I've shared with you, I've said it a million times, and I'll continue to say it. This is Darren Fox still not on the biggest stage. Once Darren Fox gets to the playoffs, he's going to take it to an even higher and bigger level. Darren Fox should be a household name now. Isn't enough of one. Darren Fox is absolutely going to be a household name going into this summer and when we come into next season. No longer are the Kings and Darren Fox going to be ignored just because they're wearing purple with Sac across the front. Darren refuses to allow it, just like he refused to allow the Sacramento Kings to lose this game, despite the fact that some would argue the Kings shouldn't have really won this game because they were just inflicting self-inflicted wound after self-inflicted wound. We're going to cover all of this in today's podcast. But let's talk about the officiating at the end of the game. Now, I had fun with that introduction. If any NBA official is watching, first off, why? Shouldn't you be having sleepless nights over the bad decisions that you make every single night? I'm yanking your chain a little bit. Like, I try to avoid talking about officiating as much as possible. To be fair, the NBA officials have made that really difficult this year, not just for the Sacramento Kings, but for every team, period. NBA officiating has been horrible this year, and that's only going to be magnified in the playoffs. They better clean their act up because the playoffs are going to be brutal if the NBA officials are how they have been so far this season. So the beginning, supposed to be a little bit of a joke, although there is some truth to it. I'll be completely honest with you. But some of these calls, like if NBA officials were judges for like the Oscars or any kind of award, they would give it to the worst actors on the planet. Now, I'll give DeMar DeRozan some credit. DeMar DeRozan did a pretty good job at selling both the flagrant foul 4-point play earlier in the fourth quarter against Harrison Barnes, and then the 4-point play to tie the game up in the closing seconds. Did a good job of acting. Let's talk about the flagrant foul first. Me personally, I know a lot of Kings fans were not happy with this call. I understand their argument completely. DeMar DeRozan is behind the three-point line when he starts his shot. He lands probably 1.5 to 2 feet in front of the three-point line where Harrison Barnes' feet are. So a lot of players jump forward when they shoot. They just do. Now, it's not just floaters, right? A lot of players jump forward. Some jump straight up and down. Very few jump backwards unless they're shooting a fadeaway, which you don't really see too many fadeaways unless they're in the post by big men in the league today, or at least the fadeaway shot that we used to see all the time seemingly doesn't seem to be as much of a go-to shot in the modern NBA. Could be because up close in your face defense is down as well. Regardless, I don't hate the call. I don't like it. Like, I think Harrison Barnes has a right to be somewhere, and unless he's just not contesting the shot and standing 4 feet away, he deserves to have some kind of place to stand when he is trying to contest. This is why Doug Christie, Kings assistant coach, Kings legend, talks a lot about when you try and close out on a shooter, try and go to the side of them, right? So you can either make an attempt on the ball, try and block the shot, you don't make contact with them, go right into them, and if they jump forward, they have a landing zone and you just kind of step to the side. Maybe that would have been a better situation or a better attempt by Harrison Barnes, although Harrison seems to do a lot of that in the final foul call of the game, and maybe makes the most incidental of contact to the elbow of DeMar DeRozan, and DeRozan's flailing gets him the foul call. Now, there are going to be Bulls fans that are watching this, that are listening to this, and that are going to be yelling at me in the comments. And first off, welcome. I hope you have a good time. I understand if you want to say, he clearly made contact with the elbow. There's contact there. That's enough. It should have been the call. That's the right call. And I'll be honest with you. I think the last 2-minute report is going to come out tomorrow and is going to absolutely confirm this call. Still doesn't make it right. Because if you have to zoom in and break down to see if there is the slightest of grazing incidental contact on the elbow, it shouldn't be a foul. It didn't have that much of an effect on the shot. And clearly, if you're paying that close of attention, you can see that DeMar DeRozan has his natural shooting motion, waits for the ball to be well out of his hands before suddenly his arms and feet flail. DeMar DeRozan sold the hell out of that foul. And you know what? All the power to him. It worked. I don't blame him at all for doing that. I blame NBA officials for giving into it, then the Kings reviewing it. And I understand that by the review process, it has to be clear evidence that a foul did not take place for it to be overturned. And I guess tiny incidental grazing contact, because you can see Harrison's fingers just slightly move back, again in slow motion. Just slightly. But it also looks like Harrison moves his hands back like this or moves his fingers back to avoid contact altogether. I don't know how much better Harrison could have played that. He contested it very well, jumped to the side so he didn't go right into DeMar DeRozan, certainly didn't land in his landing zone or put his feet in his landing zone to attempt to hurt DeRozan in any kind of way. And yet the slightest itty-bitty of graze contact, and it's a 4-point play. Now, I guess part of me could go, don't even put yourself in a position to do that. Like, contest the shot, but stay away as best as you can. Don't even give the referees a chance to call a foul there, especially when they need a 4-point play in order to tie the game up there. But, like, how can we blame Harrison for the defense that he played in that spot? How can we? And really, NBA officials, again, I think the last 2-minute report is going to confirm this call. What it should confirm also is the fact that DeMar DeRozan clearly traveled. Although, look, I know Kevin Huerter gets away with travels with his footwork on the perimeter. I think Domantas Sabonis gets away with a lot of travels in the paint too. So ultimately, I don't have a problem with the no call on the travel. And there should have been a no call on that shot. It should have been just a damn good shot by DeMar DeRozan, and then we go to the foul game. But I guess I should thank the referees. I guess I should thank DeMar DeRozan because it gave us that Darren Fox game-winning moment that all Sacramento Kings fans can celebrate, and we can all forget about these terrible foul calls. This Kings season, I mean, it's starting to get into magical territory, right? Like, it was one thing for, man, look at this turnaround. This team that hasn't been in the playoffs in 16 years. They're up in the 2-3 seed area. They're now at 41 wins. They're well above 500. They're the best team in the Western Conference on the road. Like, there are so many things about this team. The turnaround of Darren Fox, having 2 All-Stars for the first time since, 2004 or 2006, something like that. 2004, I think. Like, there's so many reasons why this is already an incredibly memorable season for the Sacramento Kings. But the fact that they keep winning games in so many different ways. They win games that someone say they shouldn't win. They win a game 176 to 175 on the road. They have De'Aaron Fox's half-court game winner in Orlando. They now have this game winner in Chicago, where Fox was smothered, by the way. Great defense played against De'Aaron Fox. A double team came, and he still shot over the top of it. And remember, De'Aaron Fox is not a good three-point shooter, or the three-point shot is not De'Aaron Fox's game. There's so many things about the season that just go, wow, this is special what we're seeing. You know, it reminds me, and Oakland A's fans, you'll probably remember this or understand this reference. It was 2012. I think that was the year. The 2012 season for the Oakland A's, the year of the walk-off, right? Where the Oakland A's ended up winning their division, and they just kept winning games in walk-off fashion at home. Walk-off after walk-off after walk-off. And it was like, this team is special. Now, ultimately, they didn't win the championship. They made it to the playoffs. It started a little bit of a playoff run. They didn't win the championship, so they didn't accomplish the main goal. But still, like, that regular season was magical, was special. There was just something about that team where they refused to lose. They refused to go down. And in so many ways, the Sacramento Kings this season are that. 41 wins, 20 wins on the road. Game winners, high-scoring games, coming from behind late, securing victories against better teams, shining on national television. Like, there's so many things about this season that you can point to and go, wow, this is different. Like, these are these sports stories that you romanticize and reminisce and think about and talk about 10, 15, 20 years from now. In a lot of ways, the same way that we talk about the Sacramento Kings from the late 90s and early 2000s. Now, it would be the cherry on top. It would be even better for the Sacramento Kings to actually get some hardware at the end of it, which is a ring or a Western Conference championship or whatever. I don't know if anybody's putting money on the Kings to do that at this point, but also, why not? Like, why not the Sacramento Kings at this point? Why can't they do it? They continue to show time and time again that they can beat anybody. If the game is close at the end of the game, I would choose De'Aaron Fox over anybody else in the league at this point. Why can't the Sacramento Kings keep on winning like this? Now, I just did an episode yesterday where I talked about the best and worst case playoff scenarios, running through 9 different opponents. And I was very honest in there about teams that I thought the Sacramento Kings would not win playoff series against. But what I said there was that the Sacramento Kings can beat anybody. This Kings team plays like they can win, or like they will win on any given night. Like, there isn't a team better than them. And if the game is close in the fourth quarter, they have more confidence than anybody else in the league that they're going to be able to close it out. And they've proven that time and time again. And it's not just De'Aaron Fox. It's not just Domantas Sabonis. It's Malik Monk. It's Kevin Huerter. It's Trey Lyles, who didn't play tonight. Like, there's so many, Keegan Murray at times, there's so many different players that step up and hit big shot after big shot after big shot time and time and time again that lead to these Kings victories that so many people believe the Kings should not have any business winning. It's magical. It's special at this point. Regardless of what happens in the playoffs, this regular season will be one that I will always remember. And it's certainly the best season that I've ever had in my professional career covering the Kings. The Kings are guaranteed to have a 500 record with 41 wins. If they lose the remainder of the season, which they will not, of course, if they lose the remainder of the season, the worst they'll finish with is 41-41. I mean, that's cool enough to say with 14 games remaining. But the magical number is 7. 7 more wins for the Sacramento Kings, and they clinch a playoff spot. Now, not home court advantage, not a top 4 seed, but if they win 7 more games, they clinch a top 6 spot. They clinch a spot in the playoffs and go from the longest drought in NBA history and the longest drought in North American sports to skipping the play-in and moving themselves right into the playoffs once again. God, that is sweet to say. Now, what I also got to say is, I don't know. I know, like, the Kings are sponsored by, like, Kaiser Permanente and maybe Sutter Health and other hospitals, but and medical centers. Can the Kings start paying for blood pressure medication? Because, my God, if I'm getting stressed out about these close games and these tight finishes that seem to be every night for the Kings at this point, I know Kings fans at home or Kings fans in the Golden One Center are losing their minds. And just wait. Just wait till we get to the playoffs. You mean to tell me if swap the Bulls out tonight and this is a road game against the Clippers or the Warriors and we have that finish, there's a 4-point play on a bogus call, that there isn't going to be a Kings fan somewhere that passes out or is hospitalized? Now, I'm over-exaggerating a little bit, but my goodness, the blood pressure, the heart rate, the biting of nails. Like, maybe they should pay for pedicures and manicures. Pedicures doesn't make any sense. That's toenails. Jesus, man. You could not sound like more of a doofus. But manicures, they should be paying for every single one of their fans, men and women. Because I guarantee you there are a lot of broken fingernails from Kings fans and their stress over the course of this season. But I guess stress in meaningful games is a good thing. And so far, despite the amount of stress and high blood pressure that the Kings have given their fans this season, I think they've done enough at this point to earn the trust and faith that despite all the drama, despite all the chaos at times, the Kings are going to pull it out. And they did again tonight. Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by a sponsor that I am playing and a sponsor that I am, truth be told, completely geeked out about as an armchair GM. It's the mobile game Ultimate Pro Basketball GM. If you ever dreamed of becoming an NBA GM and running a basketball franchise, your dream could come true. This game is definitely for you. It's the most real-to-life experience out there outside of actually doing the job. You can manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the season, and lead your team to glory. You're responsible for, like, hiring the right coaches and a coaching staff, trading and training players, making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency, the draft, all the ups and downs of a season. They have it all for you in the most real-to-life, true-to-life sim out there. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Pro Basketball GM is completely free and playable offline. You can play on the go, and you can play as you want to, when you want to. Locked On Kings listeners can get 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code Locked On in the game store, so make sure you check it out and show me the results of each season of your teams. Take a screenshot, tweet it to me, email it to me. Send me those results of your team, because I'm telling you, you'll probably do a better job than me. I'm about 50 games into my first season right now, and I just got my 21st win. Yeah, maybe it's a good thing that Monty McNair is running this team, and I am not. To download the game, visit probasketballgm.com. Scan the code or look it up on the app stores. That's probasketballgm.com. Ultimate Basketball GM. Start your dynasty today. Despite the ending, despite the fun that we're having, we got to be honest and talk about how bad the Sacramento Kings were for a lot of this game. And it wasn't like the Bulls were. Now, no disrespect to the Bulls. Like, they've got good pieces. I love DeMar DeRozan. I'm a big fan of Zach LaVine. Like, I think that team should be better than what they are in the East. But the Kings nearly beat themselves tonight. I mean, they did a terrible job taking care of the basketball. They turned the ball over 20 times, leading to 23 points. They had 5 turnovers in the first quarter. Now, I think it's encouraging that the Sacramento Kings can have a terrible first quarter and still only be trailing by 5 at the end of that quarter. Now, of course, the Bulls went and built that up to a 16-point lead. It was a 10-point lead at halftime. The Kings only scored 48 points in the first half. This is the fourth time this season that the Kings have scored less than 50 points in a half. Now, oddly enough, in those 4 games, Kings are now 3-1, which just goes to show you their ability to turn games around and turn things around in the second half. Also, the Bulls had 13 offensive rebounds, leading to just 10 second chance points. I say just because it should have been worse than that. The Bulls on second chance opportunities shot just 25%, 4 of 16. So that could have been a whole heck of a lot worse too. But the Kings recently, if you go back to the New York Knicks game, tonight's game, they're giving up far too many offensive rebounds, far too many second chance opportunities, and better teams are going to torch the Kings with those offensive opportunities. So not great for Sacramento in that sense. A lot of things that they definitely can learn from, a lot of things that they can definitely clean up, but the fact that the Kings came back from 16 down, the fact that they put themselves in this position quickly, and look, you got to be pleased with how the Kings started the second half, right? They played a bad first half of basketball. They knew they were still in it. 10 points is more than striking distance for this team. They can erase that quickly, and they did so in 4 minutes. It started with a 7-0 run to start the third quarter, and then, like I said, within 4 minutes, by the 8-minute mark of the third quarter, the Sacramento Kings had tied the game and even built a slight lead. So you love how quickly the Kings were able to come back, again, coming back from 16 down, closing that gap quickly. And then I think they allowed this game to be a little bit too close. I think the Bulls did build like a 5-point lead late in or like midway through the fourth quarter that the Kings ended up extending into their own lead, which we know what happened. DeMar DeRozan's 4-point play made that game a lot closer than it had to be at the end, but Darren Fox heroics says that doesn't matter. All we're going to see is the W at the end of the day. But when it comes to the film session that I know Mike Brown and his coaching staff are going to have with this team, I wouldn't be surprised if the team gets ripped to shreds, because a lot of these turnovers, they were just careless turnovers. Like the Kings under pressure, or sometimes not even under pressure, just trying to move too fast. Like they had so many turnovers off of defensive rebounds where they were looking for the outlet pass and they would just throw it to a Chicago Bulls player, not checking to see where the defense was before making that pass. Just some careless, bad decisions that, again, this Kings team is more than capable of overcoming, but you don't want it to become a habit. And you know they're better than this. And again, Mike Brown is not just trying to win games right now. Mike Brown's not just trying to secure a top 4 seed and get home court advantage. Mike Brown's not just trying to make a deep playoff run and win the championship this year. He's trying to instill championship tendencies in this team right now so that when they've developed those tendencies and they've made those habits, basically, by the time we get to maybe this point next year, then the Kings are not just surprise title contenders, maybe they're title favorites. Mike Brown is trying to build those habits and build those expectations right now. So he absolutely should hold this team accountable and absolutely should rip them a new one and not be pleased with how sloppy they were playing and at times how unfocused they looked. Now, thankfully, this team is good enough. I'm not going to say the Bulls are bad enough, really. I'm going to say this Kings team is good enough and the season is magical enough, like we talked about, to where Sacramento can overcome that. But you do that against Denver. You do that maybe against Golden State in the playoffs. You do that against a Phoenix Suns team or a Dallas or Memphis Grizzlies team. I don't know if the Kings are going to be able to pull that rabbit out of the hat like they've been able to as of late. Let's talk about some individual performances. Darren Fox, of course. Like we talked about his game winner, but let's look at his numbers. I mean, 32 points, shot 12 of 17 from the field, 4 of 6 from three-point range, 2 steals. In the fourth quarter alone, he had 15 points, 5 of 8 from the field, 3 of 5 from three-point range, and 1 steal. I want to talk about the steal first because it was another timely steal. Like the Kings have been great all season at timely buckets, but when it comes to important defensive moments in the fourth quarter, Darren Fox has been that guy just as much as he's been the clutch scorer. But I saw some people talking about the amount of the volume of three-point shots that Darren Fox has been taking lately. He took a lot. I think he took like 12 or something like that against the Milwaukee Bucks the other night. I'm okay with Darren Fox taking 6 3-pointers. I'm okay with Darren Fox taking 10 3-pointers if he wants to. I don't see Darren Fox taking bad shots. Of course, there are times where it's like, Darren, what are you doing? You're the fastest guy on the floor. Put the ball on the floor and attack. But you have to remember, a lot of times Darren is taking those shots because players are sagging off and playing so far back and leaning back on the back foot because they need that extra split second to be able to stay in front of him. So if he can hit these outside shots consistently, and again, 4 of 6 from three-point range, he'll take that every freaking night of the week. Now, he doesn't always get that. I think in the 12 three-point game that he had, three-point attempts, he made 5 of them. Hell, I'll still take that. That's above his 34% average. De'Aaron has earned the right to basically shoot any shot within reason that he wants at this point. Sure, I would like to see him put the ball on the floor a little more times, and I'm not always the biggest fan of his step-back threes, but hell, he's been hitting them. And if he's hitting them, he's unguardable. So I understand Kings fans saying, like, De'Aaron, what are you doing? Attack the basket more. Attack, 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 attack. Trust your point guard. Trust your scorer. He's playing like an absolute superstar. Everything he touched feels like gold right now. If he has the confidence to let it fly, all Kings fans should have the confidence in that shot going in and trusting that he's going to make the right decision in that moment. Doesn't mean he's always going to, but I think he's earned that trust, to say the least. Domantas Sabonis, 14 points, 17 rebounds, 10 assists. Hey, that's triple-double. He leads the league in double-doubles. I think this was his 55th or 56th double-double. And this is now his 11th triple-double. 4 triple-doubles in the last 5 games. Is that good? Anybody? I think the only other big man really doing that consistently is Nikola Jokic, which that's been a comparison all season long. Nikola Jokic is going to be first team All-NBA center. Joel Embiid's probably going to be second team All-NBA center. Is there any way that Domantas Sabonis isn't third team? He's got the numbers. He's got the winning team. Like, Domantas Sabonis at this point should be a lock for third team All-NBA, just like he was a lock for for NBA All-Star Reserve. And he should have been an NBA All-Star starter. And it was because of the fan vote that he wasn't. I'm still a little bit bitter about that. But Domantas Sabonis has been incredible. Then you have Malik Monk, right? Malik stepping up in a big way off the bench with the second unit when the Kings really needed it. Malik Monk, 19 points, 6 of 10 shooting from the field, 5 of 8 from three-point range, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. Here is the microwave scorer that the Sacramento Kings knew that they were signing when they went out and got him. And Malik has had moments where his scoring wasn't necessarily there, and they leaned more heavily on his playmaking and kind of his flashiness and his energy that he's provided in that sense. But this was the, I am going to score. This Kings team needs offense. We need to get back. We're down double digits. I'm going to help make a difference. And what I liked about this game is that this time it wasn't him over Kevin Huerter. It was him and Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter in this game, 4 of 7 from three-point range. His three-point shot heater continues. Remember, he had 8 threes the other night in the loss to Milwaukee. Hit some big threes in the fourth quarter. I thought Keegan Murray, he still struggled offensively, but had 10 rebounds in this game. He had a tip back at one point that led to a Darren Fox assist and Chimezie Metu dunk when the Kings were coming back and battling back in the fourth quarter. That tip back was essential, and he's awarded a rebound for that, but he should also get the assist and also get the points because none of that happens without the effort that he made. It was 1 versus 3, and he out-hustled them and tipped the ball back to Darren Fox in the backcourt, or at least towards half court. Like, that's significant. That's very significant, and I love to see that extra effort from Keegan Murray in a game where offensively he's not playing as well as we know he's capable of. But is it clear now to everybody, if anybody was doubting, is it clear now how important Trey Lyles is to this team? Kings were without Trey Lyles because he got suspended for his altercation with Brook Lopez at the end of the Milwaukee Bucks game. And clearly, we can see how much the second unit relies on him. Now, I thought Chimezie Metu had some really good moments. Alex Len got some playing time. Didn't look that great, but I'm a fan of Alex Len, so I have no problem with him playing when he needs to. But Trey Lyles is essential to the success of the Sacramento Kings second unit. And you could clearly tell in that first half, the second unit was trying to figure out how to be consistent offensively without him. He's been such a reliable bucket getter with that second unit that when they hit cold spells, it's typically him or Malik Monk that are hitting those shots. Thankfully, Malik was able to turn that on towards the second quarter and third quarter and for the rest of the game. But early on, Trey Lyles' absence on the offensive end of the floor was clearly significant. Trey Lyles is extremely important to this Kings team. A lot of great individual performances, just another great Sacramento Kings win. And once again, as much as we want to just point to Darren Fox and his game winner as the reason why the Kings win, you can continue to go down this Kings box score. And the eye test will show you, this guy did this, this guy did that, this guy did this. Kings keep winning as a team. This Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. We're in the final stretch of the NBA season. It is the perfect time for you to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because now new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. So maybe you bet on the Chicago Bulls to win tonight. Don't know why you would, although Vegas was on to something. Like, coming into tonight's game, initially this morning, it was like even, and then the Kings were only -1.5. Well, clearly Vegas thought that the Kings were going to perform and they were onto something a little bit. Well, the Kings ended up covering that spread, but maybe you bet on the Chicago Bulls in this game. Well, that's okay. If you lost, you can still get up to $1,000 in bonus bets back. It's an insurance policy for the first time that you play. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on anything from the money line to point scores to even threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, before we wrap up, tonight was also a great night for the Sacramento Kings in the standings. Not only did the Kings handle their business and win and continue to control their destiny, well, you look at the rest of the standings, the Grizzlies lost, the Timberwolves lost, and icing on the cupcake, the Lakers lost. Great night for the Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors. As of right now, the Golden State Warriors and Los Angeles Clippers are playing. That game is significant because the Clippers and Warriors are tied in the loss column. Now the Kings have moved up to 2, so maybe it's a little bit less significant, but the Kings, if they end up in 3, whoever loses this game is that team at 6. So maybe that's the team. I think the most likely scenario at this point is the Kings are facing one of those 2 teams. Although, hey, maybe I'm underselling the Kings and they're going to remain at 2 and then play whoever comes out of the play-in games, whoever who wins that 7th seed in the play-in. Who knows? It's a great spot for the Sacramento Kings to be regardless. If you haven't checked out the podcast that I did yesterday, running through the 9 different playoff opponents in different scenarios, ranking them from best case to worst case, please go and check that out. I really would appreciate it. And now we turn our attentions to the Brooklyn Nets. Game 2 of this 4-game road trip before the Kings return home for a tough matchup against the Boston Celtics. I think the Kings should handle business against Brooklyn, although that's a good team despite trading away both Kyrie and KD, a team with length that could give the Kings some troubles. Bridges always seems to do well against Sacramento. So it's going to be a tough battle on the second night of a back-to-back, but if any team's capable of overcoming it, we know it's this Sacramento Kings squad, and maybe we shouldn't bet against them until they prove that they are as Kingsy as we think they can be and as Kingsy as they've shown at times in tonight's game, certainly in the first half of tonight's game. But I'm feeling good about the Kings, feeling good about this road trip. Then it ends with Washington and Utah, 2, of course, very winnable games. So if this is the game, the Brooklyn Nets game is the game that they lose during this trip and they come home 3-1 on this 4-game road trip, I have a hard time being mad at that. Have a hard time really being mad at too much this season, to be honest with you. This has been an incredible ride. Thank you so much for being with me to this point. Can't wait to have you with me for the rest of it and into the playoffs. The first time Locked On Kings has ever covered playoff basketball. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Appreciate your support. Can't wait to have you join me on tomorrow's post-game episode after the Kings hopefully beat the Nets. Until then, my name is Matt George. You are listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.